As a business professional, you want to eliminate friction in your business and life and be in control of your daily results to see progress in achieving your goals. Being productive is a continuous improvement process that everybody struggles with in one way or another. Welcome to the Productivity Mastery Method podcast. I'm your host, Chris Nixon, and I'm a productivity consultant. Every week, I'll share tips, insights, and interviews with guest experts that will help you think critically so you can take actionable steps to be more productive. Now that we've got this out of the way, let's dive into the episode. So, welcome to the Productivity Mastery Method. I invite you to share your name and a little bit about the work you do.
Oh, thanks, Chris. So I'm Helen Tudor, formerly known as Helen Pritchard. And I guess I'm most famous for helping entrepreneurs get leads from LinkedIn. That's kind of my thing. I've got a program called the LinkedIn Mastermind, but I'm also a business coach, mentor, and help people with scaling businesses. That's me.
So then tell us a little bit then, Helen, about what is it that you do to manage your stuff, to be successful in business?
Oh, that's such a good question, because just before we came on, we were talking about it's almost having a realization that I must have some systems, but it doesn't feel like I have. I'm very chaotic. Somebody once asked me, what was my morning routine? So I was on stage in Thailand, and I said, well, I get up, I slide my phone from under my pillow where I fell asleep looking at it, and then I start scrolling through my phone again. And then I just breathe in and out normally, and I just get up and start my day. And people thought that was really funny, because everybody else was like, right, I get up, I do my breath work, I do this, I do that, and I was like, oh, I'm just a normal, middle-aged mum of four who's got a lot going on. So for me, I don't have a particular routine, but I do manage to get a lot done. And I think the secret to getting a lot done is doing a lot when I'm in the zone. I think I'm really self-aware of my energy. So instead of trying to manage it and trying to, I just think, am I feeling completely in the zone here? And then when I'm in the zone, I can get so much done, multiple things done at once. And when I'm not, I can't get anything done. So over the years, I've stopped trying to force myself to be productive when everything is saying no. And I've got really good at listening to my own body, my own energy that says, doesn't matter what, you're just not going to do the thing that you keep putting off. So you might as well go and do something else completely, change your energy, change your state, and come back to it when you're really feeling in a different space. But yeah, I can get multiple things done at once if I'm in the right headspace, I'm in the right energy space. So I think it's really understanding my own body and my own signs of procrastination for me. If I'm in the fridge when I'm supposed to be writing a headline and a profile, then I know that I'm just not doing the thing. So my actual system, if I have to do the thing, if there's no choice and this thing has to happen, what I tend to do is I work well to deadlines. So if I have to give myself a deadline, a consequence, and a reward to sort of gamify it for myself. So say I've got a profile to write, and I've given the client a deadline. I said, I'll have it over to you by Friday. I could have done it Monday, I didn't. Could have done it Tuesday, didn't. I've literally pushed it along in my calendar every day. Now it's Friday and it's got to be done, So I've given myself a deadline. Now it's when I get that profile done, I've got to get it done by 4. If I don't get it done by 4, I'm not go. If I do get it done by 4, I'm going to go and have a really nice walk, maybe go to the pub, have a really, really nice cold glass of wine, and have that as my Friday treat. If I don't, I'm going to have to go and do all the laundry and all the bedding or something that I really don't want to do, which I don't normally do because I've got a housekeeper, something that I really don't want to do as a sort of consequence of not doing it. So I tend to gamify things for myself, give myself a deadline, a reward, and a consequence, so that if I have to do something I'm putting off, then I get it done that way.
Okay, so I totally identify with the deadline. Now, how do you stay true to your own word? You created that deal with yourself that said, if you do it, you get to go and relax and have the nice wine and the walk. And if you don't, you got to do the laundry. When it comes time, if maybe you haven't done what you needed to do, how do you come to that decision that, I'm going to stick to my word there?
I think you have to, don't you? Because otherwise you're only playing against yourself. When you work for yourself, you've got no boss, you've got nobody telling you what to do. It's like I have to do it. But the way I do something like that is by holding myself accountable by publicly saying it's going to be done by that time. So, you know, I create a public accountability by saying to the client, it will be with you by 4:00 on Friday. And then even though I've got my whole week to do it, you know, I don't do it. Other things like marketing though, which don't have a defined thing, you know, when you're doing your own marketing, there's not really a thing. I get really good at just having 3 non-negotiables to do every day. So as long as I've done those 3 things. So like I never teach this as well in my programs, but we recently did a thing called like Hard 100. So we picked something we found really hard. And then I said to them, pick something else because the thing you picked wasn't hard enough. And everyone goes, oh, they picked something that was like not that hard. They picked something that's really hard and commit to doing it 100 times in your business. And just make that your one non-negotiable. So but recently I said, well, it's not particularly hard for me, but the consistency is hard. So I'm going to do a live on my Facebook page, a live every day on my Facebook page, just talking about my day, because I know when I do that, it really helps build a connection with my audience. Because I'm really guilty, like a lot of marketers. It's like, I'm consistent, I show up, but when I've got something on, like a masterclass or I've got a challenge, I'll really ramp it up and I can be really salesy, you know, really aggressive in my sales, which is fine. But I sometimes forget to be really aggressive in my, but you know, in like connection building stuff. Because I always think, who wants to listen to me talk about my day? It's not that interesting. But I've done it before and my audience love it, you know, so they really enjoy it. So I had to commit to that. So I've committed to doing that every day. And that is almost like my one non-negotiable. So rather than having like 20 things to do every day, I have one thing that I'm focusing on right now. And once I do that thing, the other stuff seems to flow much easier. So I say, well, I've done my one thing or my 3 things, whatever it might be, and then I'll do those other things as well. So every day I always post, you know, multiple times a day, but at least I show up on my socials at least once a day. Now I sort of added on to that. Yeah, I'm always going to do my video. And now I added on, you know, and I'm always going to be promoting the next thing that's coming down the line. So those 3 things give me a real easy thing to tick off my list each day. And I don't overwhelm myself with saying I'm going to do all of these things, because I'm just not. But if I can keep that list small and non-negotiable. So when I finished the other night, I finished work. I'm in a treehouse office in the garden. So I finished work. It was late. It was dark. I was tired. I shut my computer down and I was like, oh, I've not done my video. So I turned all the lights back on, you know, ball back on, did my video, like, no makeup on, looked knackered, you know, and I just thought, no, I've committed to doing it and I'll do it. So I did a 5-minute live. So I think having a very small list of non-negotiables really works for me as well.
Well, kudos to you for sticking to that commitment. I've noticed too that if a person is having a crappy day, if you can do something that feels like it's of significance, sometimes it can really kickstart the wheels turning, and then it just flows from there, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's like, well, because I've done that one thing, I might as well do another thing. While I'm here, I might as well do another thing. And while I'm on there, I'll see if something else I do. So it just steps you into that space of committing. So for me, so I outsource everything in my personal life. I can get away with everything. So I have some said about the laundry. So I have somebody who does the laundry. She does all the bedding. She does all the, like, she cleaned out the fridge today and threw all the things that were out of date. You know, she organizes all the cupboards and basically just looks after me like a wife would if the wife in the house wasn't busy working. I also outsource all the stuff in, like, for the garden, for the house, for the cars, you know, as much as I can with the kids and stuff. But at work, I think you've got to step up, haven't you? Like, it doesn't matter if I don't clean my bathroom, but it does matter if I don't do a live. Like, it's only me that can do the live in my business for my audience. So I think one of the things that's really helped me over the years, like you say, to get, when we were scaling really hard, you know, and we were doing, you know, we did over $1 million in 2020. So obviously we're in the middle of lockdown as well then. I think that did help, to be fair. But when we were scaling hard and we were going from 6 to late 6 through to 7 figures, there was just, I had to get rid of all that other stuff. You know, so there's any women watching this, you are not adding value by cleaning your own toilet. Like, you're really not. Somebody else can do that and love it. And and have a great job. Like my friend does mine. She works 2 days a week. She's got 2 kids. She loves it. She's like, she's dead organised, a person. She loves keeping my house nice and tidy. She's happy. I'm happy. If I had to do the housework, there's just no way I would get all the work done, you know? So to become really productive, I think you've got to give yourself space. You've got to give yourself space to think. You've got to give yourself space to be creative. And you just got to give yourself time off. And I think nobody else can be with my children like I can. Nobody else can turn up for my business like I can. I can outsource stuff for my business, like the admin and stuff and customer service and tech and stuff that I'm not very good at. And I can outsource the stuff in my house, like the laundry and valeting the car, stuff that I'm not good at, I'm not interested in. But I can't outsource being with my children. I can't outsource doing live video content. So they're the things that I really focus on, is how can I get rid of everything else that doesn't need me, so that the high value work that does need me, that can't be replaced, I can do. And I think potentially, I mean, obviously I've coached hundreds, thousands of entrepreneurs. Potentially, what a lot of people do is they do everything, and that spreads them so thin. And I know it's easier for me because I can but I started outsourcing really slowly and really quickly. Like I quickly realized that the faster I outsourced, the more money I could make, if that makes sense. So I started off having a cleaner once a month for a couple of hours, you know, and then it sort of came up a bit more, and then up to where I am having somebody in a couple of days. I know that's not feasible for everybody. But it is feasible to find somebody to do a deep clean once a quarter, you know, something like that, or, you know, to make that a priority. So it's not something that's always on your mind. I think, again, I know it's a sweeping statement, I think women have a lot of the mental load of, you know, the family and the organising and people's birthdays and all the rest of it. And it's like, you've got to create headspace for your business, because otherwise your business will come last, and it has to come high up in the priorities. I think your children, obviously, your family comes first, then your business, well, yourself, you come first. You've got to put yourself first. You've got to build in, to become truly productive, you've got to build in a lot of self-care and space and time for yourself and fun for yourself, because otherwise you just burn out really quick. So you're the most important. Then your family and your immediate circle of people that, you know, you rely on and they rely on you, and your health. But then it has to be your business, and then everything else. Admin, life admin, housekeeping is down there, because you can't do it all, you know.
So if we're talking specifically then about the outsourcing philosophy, have you always felt that way, or can we go back in the time machine to a time when you didn't and how you realized it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first time I said, you know, to my mom, you know, that I wanted to get a housekeeper, she was just like, "A what?" I was like, "I don't want a cleaner, Mum, because cleaners just clean. I need somebody to organise me and help." Yeah, and in fact, my mum did it for quite a while, but she used to work for the business. But I said, I need someone to look after me like a wife, you know, because I need to be focused on the business like a 1950s man, you know. Mm-hmm. And my husband's an entrepreneur as well, so he's got his own business as well. He's a lot more handy and practical and does things around the house than me. But I definitely was at a time where I felt guilt and shame about not wanting to do those things, and I felt like I was lazy and selfish to not want to do those things. But honestly, it was such a game changer. Once I started to let go of things and stop burning myself out doing it all, you know, then I really saw the opportunity there to throw myself into the business without really dropping a ball. Because like I say, me not cleaning the bathroom isn't adding value anywhere. I'm not even very good at it. Mm-hmm. So it's not like and I was never one of those people, even way back, if I go back in time, where I thought, well, that's really satisfying, or I enjoyed that process, or I found it relaxing. I know some people do, but I was just like, no, I just didn't see any joy in housework for sure. So that was kind of the first thing. Then it was the like gardens and things, because that's not my jam as well. So, and it's the headspace, isn't it? When you walk in and the house is tidy and organised and the garden's neat and it's not more things for you to do. So when you do have time off, you can spend doing the high value stuff, which is spending time with your family and do stuff you like doing. Mm-hmm. So there was definitely a time in my life where I felt like it wasn't possible for me. But as soon as and in fact, just before I could afford it, including in the business, I started to outsource. At one point, I think I had like 6 or 7 VAs who all did different things for me, you know, and I started to outsource just before I could quite afford it to give me the space to go and do it. And I think being very hyper aware of what your skills are, like I could sit all day and still not know how to make a lead magnet work or know how to do something, set a Zap up. I've heard about it, I don't know how it works. Or, you know, like a WordPress landing page, like not, but like I could go on a 6-month university course and still not know how to do those things. And I might be able to learn it, but I would never love it, you know?
Okay.
So I just always thought I'd just get someone else to do it. So I've always had people around me who do specifically tech things because I don't know how to do them at all. And over time, I've dabbled with marketing. I had a full-time marketing person once, but it just doesn't quite work, I don't think, outsourcing your marketing. I think you got to I put my heart and soul into mine, you know, so I don't really think that can be replicated. But definitely the admin and the tech and, you know, organising my diary and things like that. When I've been between VAs, I mean, what a nightmare. The whole thing falls apart. You know, in between VAs, my diary particularly just gets completely out of control. I don't know where my meetings are. I end up missing things and not putting things in my diary and not turning up to things. So it just doesn't make sense for me to try and manage that side of the business because, well, the evidence shows that it's just cost me money. So it costs me money doing it that way. So it's much better to pay somebody and have that peace of mind that when I look in my diary, they're all proper appointments and I need to show up for them and that's all I need to worry about, you know. So again, just a headspace. You might think, oh, it only takes a second to do a Zoom. I can do a Zoom call and put the link in my diary. You'd be impressed to know. Because back in the day I had to do it all myself. But it doesn't just take a second, does it? By the time you've gone back into different apps and then you put it in and then you send the email and so just getting rid of all that feels very indulgent. And again, I do feel a bit lazy, you know, and I'll message Natalie and be like, can you screenshot and say, can you set this up for me? Can you set this up for me? You know, but she just deals with it, you know. And the same as if something happens and I can't get to appointments, I can just say to Natalie, look, I can't make, you know, you have to clear my diary and she can organise that and rearrange it. So, for example, I've got 4 children, but my 2 daughters particularly have struggled with their mental health. So something could happen one day where they get called into school, they've got to go to school, got to go and pick one of them up and they're obviously having a bad day and things are really bad. And like, if I then had to start emailing people, rearranging my diary, you know, blah, blah, dealing with all of that, that would just pile on the stress massively. So it's really important for me, for the family as well, that we've got people who can manage that side of the business as well.
So how did you feel when you initially started relinquishing control of your diary? Like, I'm just thinking some people might be afraid that, you know, that this person's going to schedule something that they don't want to do on that time. And, you know, what were your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got more relief than I'm not much of a control freak. I'm pretty happy to let things go, but I do say things like I don't work after 3 o'clock. So I do put some boundaries in place. So I don't work after 3 p.m. usually. Lucky Chris. It's 3:30 in the UK. Like, not only because I'm normally picking kids up from school and then after school you just don't know what you're going to get with a teenager, do you? They might want to speak to you or they might not. If they don't want to speak to me and they go to the rooms, great, I can get on and do some work. But sometimes they, you know, suddenly want to have some heart to heart or something's happened. So after 3 o'clock, I don't start work till after 9:30 because, again, school runs at the beginning. And I try not to work Mondays and Fridays. That's the idea. Doesn't always work out like that, but that's the idea. And the other thing that we do is we have a call where I've got a year planner and we map out all my launches, or like my masterclasses, all the retreats that I'm doing, all the social stuff that I'm doing, like festivals and things like that. So we have it at the beginning of the year, we have that all mapped out so we can see where things can get put in.
Do you feel a bit like you set the vision and the plan and then you're turning it over almost to someone else to tell you what to do on a day-to-day basis? You don't have to worry about it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like being a celebrity. That's how you kind of have to think of it. Like, someone said to me once, if you're going to be a 7-figure business owner, you got to act like a 7-figure business owner. So I always think, like, I'm pretty sure, you know, Richard Branson or whoever, you know, anyone who's on Dragon's Den in the UK or Shark Tank, they don't manage their own diaries, do they? Mm-hmm. They get told where to go, what they're doing, blah, 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 you know, and they're they're the talent. I am the most important person in my business, because without me, there isn't a business. Sadly, I've created a personal brand, right here or wrongly. Hopefully, my plan is always like, how can I make it so I'm not doing Facebook Lives when I'm 50? I've got a 6-year exit plan. But anyway, I am the star of the show, and that's not like my ego talking. It's like people want to see me. Only I can do a masterclass. Only I can do a live of wine and a challenge, and only I can show up in my program, right? So it has to be me. So it's always like, think of it like celebrities, protect the talent and let them, so they can go on and perform at their best ability. Like, no one's saying to J-Lo, you need to arrange all these meetings with your record execs, or you need to, decide this or that. It's like, I'm pretty sure J-Lo makes very few decisions. It's just that I'm sure her food is given to her, her outfits are organised for her, her children are made sure that they're in the right place at the right time. Don't think she's doing any school runs, could be wrong. And, but her plans, her travel, where she's got to be, because otherwise she can't be the best J-Lo that she's got to be, right? She can't show up and do what she does in front of like thousands, millions of people or whatever. I watched the Super Bowl, that's what I was thinking about, the Super Bowl documentary about J-Lo, and it was just brilliant, fascinating for me. Literally, it's like she has an assistant, and then it's like, right, this is what you're doing, this is what you wear, this is where you're going, and she's just managed. She's managed through. So I'm not quite J-Lo. I'm not comparing myself to J-Lo under any circumstances, but it's almost like thinking that way of, I might not be making £1 million right now, but when I am, I might as well put these bits in place right now.
Mm-hmm. I think I've heard you mention, family and kids as much or more than business. And yet, you're also really focused on the business. So can you talk a little bit about striking that synergy between the two and making sure that they both get appropriate attention?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'm managing it to make it work at all, but I mean, I'm just doing my best. But I've never thought no, that's a lie. I have put the business before the kids plenty of times, but the big things, like I've never missed the kids' assembly. I've never missed a sports day, even though I find it all very boring. I've never missed one. I've always been there to pick them up, and with their mental health, I've always been there. I've been there to every hospital appointment. I've never missed any of that stuff. That is really stressful though, trying to juggle that with being online and having a business online. But the good thing is that you can also do so much with your family. So when my kids were younger, they'd be in the room, we'd be doing lives, people knew where they were, they'd come on, I said to Megan, my eldest, the youngest, the other day, it's a long story, but anyway, I was dressed as a hot dog for doing this thing, trying to get more people on the webinar, and I said to Megan, why don't you come in as like, dressed as a whoopee cushion? And she just looked at me and went, I'm not 11 anymore, she's like 16 now. But when she was 11, she loved it, she'd come on and talk to people. So I was never trying to keep the two apart. I was always like, look, I'm a single mom. I'm not now, I'm married now, but that was always part of my story. I was like, I'm a single mom. I'm doing live with wine because I'll be having a wine at this time anyway. And my kids are going to be in and out of the house, in and out of shot. And, I kind of blended the two massively early on. It was a big part of my story. So I think what I would say, if you've got a family, leverage them for likes, because people love to see behind the scenes, right? Mm-hmm. They love to see behind the scenes. I turned Megan into a Facebook ad once. She was furious about it. Because she had like ice cream stacked up to here and no makeup on. I said, oh, it's all right, I won't put it anywhere. And anyway, I ended up using it as a Facebook ad that went to like, I don't know, about 500,000 people. But she's, but I'd say that is like, don't try and pretend you haven't got a family, because people like to see, if you've got a personal brand anyway, they like to see behind the scenes and that you're not perfect and polished. And I'm very honest about what it's like having a family, and I definitely blend in my marketing the two things together, because I think it's just the truth, isn't it? I never need to pretend that I'm something that I'm not if I'm completely open and honest about who I am and what I've got going on, including the kids and the stuff they've had. I've had one school refuser, mental health, and Katie's had problems. And I think the more I talk about it, the more people like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And if you can do it, then we can do it if we've got problems with kids and stuff. But then sometimes you've got to be a bit ruthless and say, look, girl, whoever, to your kids, once they get old enough, whether it's you're going on your iPad while I'm going to do this live, or I'll bribe you with some kind of sweets. Or like now with my older two, I'm just like, I'm doing a webinar for 500 people. Do not interrupt me for the next hour. After that, fine. Like, unless the house is on fire or your leg's falling off, that's it, you know. And they understand that that's how we make the money. So they've seen me, my girls have seen me go from absolutely broke. Like, you know, my dad having to take us shopping to buy food, and like, you know, that my uncle having to buy my house so I didn't get repossessed and rent it back, and having no money for anything. So they've seen me like that. And they've also seen me taking them to New York and Dubai and, you know, having amazing experiences and driving nice cars and buying a big house. And I think that they lived through that. And I think they understand that when mum goes on the computer and she's, you know, and they take the mick out of me, they're like, oh, I'm Helen and I'm going to help you get these things to, you know. But they know that that's how we pay the bills, you know. So they understand it. But I know when the kids are little, they don't understand it. And you do get torn and you will feel guilty. Somebody said in my group, like, Helen, you know, I feel really guilty that I'm not giving my kids enough attention. I'm not giving my business enough attention. And I was like, you probably feel like that forever. So you just have to suck it up and get on with it. You know, it's just the way it is. But business is what gives you the money to have the good times with your family. So the two are interlinked for me. And there's no real hard finish between the two. I think there's definitely a blend. And a parenting coach once said to me, which was a gift that kept giving, was as long as you give each child 15 minutes in undivided attention a day, then that's what they need to sort of nourish them and grow. And I just thought, that I can do. 15 minutes a day each, even with 4 children, I can do that. Wow. And I just, that really made a difference. So, right, how about seeing each of the children on their own? 15 minutes, probably don't do, probably more like 5. But do you know what I mean? I was sat down and spoke to them and put my phone away. I think that's the one thing I would say. It's really hard to put your phone away when you've got an online business and you're with your kids. Because kids are boring, aren't they, half the time? So when they're being boring or they're, you know, they're just being annoying, it's really tempting to put your phone up and just say, oh, just see that comment. But then you do end up, you know, and my kids just call me out like, oh, you're always on your phone. And it's like, that's how I make my money. And then you realise if you just put your phone down for 5 minutes and really listen to them. Well, they always want to talk to you at the worst times, right? Like literally, I was just about to eat before, in between, I had one thing and I just made myself some food. I was like, sit down. And then I could hear Megan coming down the stairs. She's like, sits down, wants to talk to me. And you're just like...
Another cold meal.
Yeah, so I was like, listen to her, and she sat there, and then she disappears, and she's done, and I was like, right, okay, and you know, you just got to get on with it. I suppose. I think it's just you've got to understand that it is what it is. You're going to be working sometimes late. You're going to be taking a day off with your kids some days, and that's great, and other days you'll just be winging it as best you can.
So before we wrap up, can we nerd out a little bit and just share some of the tech programs that you're using in order to manage your VAs and have them manage you?
Yeah. Well, I tend to, every assistant I've ever had has wanted to implement a really good system. And each time I've really resisted it. So we've tried them all, like project management wise and time management wise, I'd say. Not them all, but you know, right back from Basecamp from the old days. Then we've had Asana and Trello and then Slack. And then we've just defaulted back to WhatsApp every time. So like WhatsApp for me is brilliant. Like that's how I run my life in WhatsApp, really. I mean, obviously we have Microsoft 365. We've got Teams, which we never use. Got Google Drive. Have been using that a bit more. I was a bit like, oh yeah, this is much better because I can just access everything instead of having to ask for the link all the time. But honestly, WhatsApp, I really enjoy it. I do asynchronous coaching. So instead of getting on calls with people, you just do it we use WhatsApp. Most grown-up coaches use Voxer, but I use WhatsApp because I'm a child. I don't want to adopt anything new. But when I've got business WhatsApp, so now I can label people. So if I've got I have now 10 clients, and basically on a Monday, I can just filter by the label and just go through one by one and be like, hi, good morning, just checking in, like, you know, review your week or whatever. And that's been a big game changer for me because instead of having a list or having to keep it up here, it's in there. So I really like WhatsApp Business, and I have it as a link on the end of a lot of my marketing stuff. So it's like, if you're interested in joining or you want to speak to me, then you can just get straight in my WhatsApp. And I sort of resisted it because I thought, there's no sacred space anymore because WhatsApp was where my friends were. But actually, it's just all in one place and it's quite easy to manage. So that's my favorite tool. I think I've tried them all. I can see the benefits of them all. I can't adopt new things. I'm a bit of a dinosaur that way. So WhatsApp for Business, though, love it. That would be my top tip.
And that's one thing that I really encourage people to really realize is everybody's different. Everybody works differently. And, that simple is often much better.
Yeah, this is my favorite tool. It's just a to-do list. It literally says things to do today with a list and a tick box. So that's that's £1 from Home Bargains.
So just a simple bound book with the daily to-do list in it.
That's exactly what it is. And I'm filled it. And that to me says something that I've actually filled it, because normally I buy these things, and I don't actually use them, but I'm going to go and get another one. And it's interesting because I can go back in time and look at my to-do list. Priority car for Katie. So we went and bought her a car. But yeah.
So you've got your paper to-do list. You use WhatsApp to communicate with your clients and with your support staff. What about your calendar? How did you know what time our meeting was today?
I love my calendar. I live and die by my calendar, right? Well, I don't check my calendar till the night before. So that's the last thing I do. So just before, because I don't know, because it's changing all the time. So before I go to bed, I check my calendar and I make sure I'm good for everything that's happening the next day. So I think it's just the Google Calendar that goes onto my phone. I don't know. I think so. So Natalie has access to that. So yeah, she uses the Google Calendar and it just all drops in there with all the links and what podcasts are about and things like that. So she takes a lot of information and just gives me exactly what I need in my diary for each call, which is really useful.
So Helen, share a bit more about your business. Who is it you serve, and who should contact you, and how would you like them to reach out?
So I help business owners who want to grow, but particularly who can see the opportunity, or maybe can't yet, but who want to add another income stream. So what I tend to do is take entrepreneurs who have already got a business that's, working well, but show them how to really use LinkedIn to drive revenue as an additional stream. Really easy, really simple, nothing too taxing, no sending loads of DMs or spending money on premium or ads or anything like that, but a real strong organic revenue stream for businesses. So it can be anybody from somebody who's kind of, a small business who's working online, right through to somebody who maybe works for a bigger organization. But it's just to come to the free 5-day challenge. Usually there's always one coming up. We run them every quarter, but the free 5-day challenge is where most people start their journey with me. And you can find me at helenpritchard.online.com. If you go to the website there, you'll be able to see the links for the challenge and all the other stuff that I do there.
How would I know as a person in this space that I need to reach out and get what it is you're offering?
If you want more money, that's what I do. I help you make more money easier. So that's it. You can find me on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn, but I love Facebook. So follow me on my personal Facebook because that's where everything happens. But you'll need to reach out to me when you're thinking, wonder where my next client's coming from. That's the problem that I solve.
Okay, Helen. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks so much for having me. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to this episode. If you think the show is of value and a must-listen for someone, feel free to share it with your productivity friends. And if you do, I'd be so grateful for your support. If you want to find the links, show notes, and resources, no matter what episode you're listening to, head over to chrisnixon.com/podcast. That's CHRISNIXON.com/podcast. If you want to connect with me on social, you can find me on Facebook at chrisnixon.com/Facebook or LinkedIn at chrisnixon.com/LinkedIn. Join the discussion for this episode on my LinkedIn company page, linkedin.com/company/chrisnixon. That's all for this episode, and remember, productivity is a continuous improvement process. Space Dust by Aerotone. Copyright 2022. Licensed under the Creative Commons Attribution License. Courtesy of dig.ccmixter.org. This episode of the Productivity Mastery Method podcast is copyright to Chris Nixon 2022. All rights reserved.